Well, thank you very much, everybody, for taking the time to attend this event today. I hope that everybody's staying safe and productive in these times. And hopefully we can have a very productive discussion today. My name is Juan Carlos Garcia. I am a Google Cloud Custom Engineer based in Southern California in Irvine. And I have been in Google Cloud for about 2 years now. And I am mostly focused on infrastructure, but security is one of the things I'm really passionate about and I like to talk to customers about. And definitely security is one of the things I consider is the foundation for anything you build to the cloud. We talk to customers all around the world who ask us questions about how we address security and their concerns, of course, about bringing workloads to the cloud or deploying a hybrid fashion. So what I'm going to talk about today is how we approach security within Google Cloud. So hopefully by the end of this session, you feel like you have all the tools and the features you need to bring your workloads to the cloud. So traditionally, organizations look at the cloud as a way to augment capacity and reduce costs. But in Google Cloud, we believe that bringing your data to the cloud is a way to actually increase security. We believe that moving to cloud can help organizations to improve the security and risk posture, and that we can work with them to help make that happen. From a secure global platform to build and run applications with GCP, to apps to collaborate in a secure environment and protect data with G Suite, to a single console to easily manage users, devices, and apps with cloud identity, to secure endpoints and access platforms with Chrome Android, we in Google Cloud provide you with a modern security infrastructure from the user to the device, to the application, to the platform. What you're seeing right now are all the different services that we have within Google Cloud. And today we're going to talk about how we approach security across all those services. So first of all, we have been recognized by independent industry analysts as leaders in cloud security. So for example, Google Cloud was named a leader in the Forrester's Public Cloud Platform Native Security Wave, and also it was recently named a leader in their Data Security Portfolio Vendors Wave. So when I tell you that we take security seriously and that we have a track record of innovating in security, you don't have to take my word for it. Our customers and analysts out there recognize our efforts in this space. And this is possible thanks to this one thing that we do in Google Cloud that really help us secure your workloads. So this one thing doesn't exist, right? Let's be honest, security is not that easy. I wish it were, but it's not. It requires a lot of work and requires a lot of know-how. And something that Greg addressed before earlier today was how we have years of know-how of building applications securely in the cloud. And we bring all this know-how and all this infrastructure and all this knowledge to you when you come to Google Cloud, externalize all those best practices and features to you as part of Google Cloud. Now, first things first, right? I really want to get this out of the way. So one of the big misconceptions that we see out there in the marketplace is concerns about bringing your data to Google Cloud and how that relates to privacy and data access in terms of transparency. So we are very clear about our commitments to customers about your data. Rule number one, your data belongs to you and no one else. We do not sell customer data to third parties, nor we do use it for advertising. The data that you bring to Google Cloud is your data. Your data is encrypted, both in transit and at rest at all times. You do not have to ask for that. It's done by default. And if you want, actually, we can give you ways to add additional encryption on top of that. We also have explicit rules to guard against insider access. There is no backdoor to Google. There is no secret government access. And we take pride in our audits, which are also international audits, and we can deliver the results of those audits on request. So these are important rules in our mission to give you the trust that you need to build great things in Google Cloud. So with that out of the way, how can we help organizations with their security to bring their workloads to the cloud? So first of all, we provide protection from threats through a security foundation. Our core infrastructure is designed, built, and operated with security in mind from the ground go. Second, we provide customers with a constant expanding array of controls that they can use to meet policy, regulatory, and business objectives. Third, we work with our compliance team to provide capabilities to make compliance easier for customers. And these are the things that we're going to be covering today. We're going to go into detail about how we enable the security in the workloads across all these three areas. So first, let's talk about the protection that you get from building on our infrastructure foundation. Greg talked about this earlier today. Our infrastructure doesn't rely on any single technology to make it secure. Rather, we build security through progressive layers that deliver true defense in depth. On hardware, it's Google control, build, and harden. Any application binary that runs on our infrastructure is deployed securely. We do not assume any trust between services, and we use multiple mechanisms to establish and maintain that trust. Our infrastructure is designed to be multi-tenant from the start, for example. All identities, users, and services are strongly authenticated, and because there's no implicit trust between services, they're always checked against that authentication and the permissions assigned to them. Data stored in our infrastructure is automatically encrypted both at rest and in transit and distributed for availability and reliability. The communications when needed, like communications over the internet to our cloud services, are encrypted. The scale of our infrastructure allows us to absorb many denial of service attacks, and we have multiple layers of protection that further reduce the risk of any DDoS impact. Finally, our operations team detect threats and respond to incidents 24/7 by 365. So, you may have heard similar things from other cloud providers. They might describe similar stacks of capabilities. But I believe that the way that Google Cloud approaches many of these issues is unique. So let's talk a little bit about what makes Google different when it comes to security. Let's start with our hardware and our data centers, right? Our hardware infrastructure is custom designed by Google to precisely meet our requirements, especially security requirements. Again, everything that we build at Google is built with security in mind from the ground up. So our Google servers and the operating systems are designed for the sole purpose of providing Google services. On any given day of the year, we are the third or fourth largest manufacturer of servers in the world. Our servers are custom built, and they don't include any unnecessary components like video cards or peripherals that can introduce vulnerabilities. The same goes for the software. Include the low-level software, the OS, which are stripped down and hardened versions of Linux. We design and include hardware specifically for security. Like we have this custom chip called the Titan chip. This is our custom security chip that we use to establish a hardware root of trust in our servers and peripherals. So when you boot any server within a Google Cloud data center, the Titan chip ensures that there is no tampering with those servers. We also build our own network hardware and software to improve performance as well as security. So all this rolls up to our own custom data center designs, which include multiple layers of physical and logical protection. So what this means is that by understanding provenance from the bottom of hardware stack to the top It allows to control our entire security posture. Unlike some other cloud providers, we have greatly reduced the vendor-in-the-middle problem. If a vulnerability is found, we can take steps immediately to develop and roll out a fix. We don't have third-party vulnerabilities. We don't have Patch Tuesday problems. Our equipment is not commercially available, so it's very hard to even reverse engineer what we do. This level of control results in amazingly reduced exposure for us and for our customers, meaning your data and your workloads. Now, Greg talked about our network, and it's true. Right? We put a lot of effort in our network. We were born in the cloud, and being born in the cloud means that the cloud is, in effect, a network. So for us, it's the foundation of what we do within Google as a global company. Like Greg mentioned earlier today, we operate one of the largest backbone networks in the world. It's bigger than any telecom, bigger than any government. We actually have more than 130 points of presence across 35 countries. And we continue adding and scaling zones and regions to meet our customer needs and their policy and compliance requirements. That means dark and light fiber across every continent of the planet except for Antarctica, with 13 undersea cables across the Atlantic and the Pacific. So what this means is that, our global network delivers low latency and a global and effectively global high-speed network, but also it improves security. First, from a security perspective, your data is most at risk when it's traveling across the internet. With Google, in most part of the world, your data goes from your device to your ISP directly to the Google network. Since our network connects our data centers to nearly every major ISP in the world. So once the customer's traffic is on our network, it's no longer present in the public internet, which means that it's less likely to be attacked, intercepted, or manipulated. Again, so your data ends up being pretty much directly from your data center to the ISP through Google. So we truly minimize the amount of time that data is on the open internet. But also, we manufacture all of our network equipment, just like I mentioned before, switches and routers in the network. And not only the network hardware, but the communication protocols as well. For example, if you were to try to break into the Google network, your gear wouldn't speak the same language as ours. We have different protocols across even different data centers. Now, let's talk a little bit about how we protect your data. Many other cloud providers offer optional encryption capabilities, but our approach is slightly different. First, every connection to Google is on an encrypted connection. And this is extraordinarily strong encryption. There is no way to have an unencrypted connection to the Google services and Google APIs. As a matter of fact, the encryption is so strong that it's stronger than many commercial-grade VPNs and even some military-grade VPNs. Once the data reaches our infrastructure, it's also encrypted at rest, and this is by default. There is no extra effort required by customers. You don't have to turn any knobs. You don't have to pay anything extra. It's always enabled by default. We encrypt your data before it's even written to disk. The encryption is built in all of Google's storage systems across the entire platform, whether it's databases, files, disks, and it's built in from scratch. So let me tell you exactly how this works. So let's say that you give us data as a file, right? When we receive this file, the first thing that happens is the data is chunked. We break it into thousands of pieces, and each of these chunks is encrypted with its own data encryption key. Then we take the data encryption key that we just used to encrypt each of the chunks, and then we wrap them using a key encryption key. Then we take the encrypted chunks and the wrap encryption keys, and we distribute those across the Google Cloud storage infrastructure. We replicate them across many different data centers. And for each data center, They might end up in different drives, different servers, different racks, even different network connectivity. If a chunk of data is updated, then it's encrypted with a new key rather than by reusing the existing key. And all this process happens every single time that you give us a piece of data, and this happens in real time. If data needs to be retrieved, then the process repeats, but in reverse, again, in real time. So as a result, if an attacker were to compromise an individual key, or let's say gain physical access to storage, then basically they would be still unable to read customer data. Because think about this, right? They will have to identify all the different data chunks in an object that have non-human readable names to start with. They will have to retrieve all those chunks across all the different data centers where they are, and then retrieve the associated encryption keys for each of the data chunks and unencrypt each of those individually. It's a tremendously hard task to be able to do something like that. But also, additionally to just the default encryption that I'm talking about, we also know that customers have different requirements based on their trust level and their business needs. So some of our services also offer options for customers to supply or manage their own encryption keys. We take encryption in the data you provide us with very seriously. And again, this is something that happens in every single service in Google Cloud by default. Greg also talked a little bit about this, and one of our big differentiators, which is the ability to update our infrastructure without disrupting customers using this technology that we call live migration. As you know, security updates have functionality, but from a security standpoint, they're also required to patch software vulnerabilities. No one writes perfect software, right? So this is a custom requirement to keep updating your security posture. So like Greg mentioned earlier today, when Spectre and Meltdown came out, they were discovered by researchers in our Project Zero team, and we helped coordinate an industry-wide effort to fix those vulnerabilities. If you were a Google Cloud customer, you barely had to pay attention. It was just fixed, no interruptions, no downtime. It was updated again when performance patch rolled out. In fact, we had not one single call to support, to the technical support as a result of these rollouts. We patch all this in the background using live migration, and like Greg said, many of our customers were patched even before the vulnerability was disclosed to the public, and we're able to do this in the background without having to interrupt your workloads. Now, all these efforts that we're talking about obviously are continuing efforts. As we all know, the threat landscape and the regulatory environment continues to evolve very rapidly. And many organizations today struggle to keep pace when it comes to security in the data centers. So this is another area where we think that moving to the cloud with the right partner can make a significant difference for you. We make security a priority to protect our own operations. But because Google runs on the same infrastructure that we make available to you, to our customers via Google Cloud, then that means that you can directly benefit from our investment. We have cloud customers across almost every geography and vertical globally. We also have about 9 consumer services with more than 1 billion users. These customers are continuously surfacing new security requirements. As you can imagine, Google in general is one of the big targets out there for security threats. But that means that our capabilities have to evolve very rapidly to meet all these needs and threats. And because our global footprint across enterprise and consumers, that means that we have an unprecedented visibility into those threats and attacks. And we can develop solutions before many other organizations even see those threats. And we can reduce exposure for you and your data and your workloads. We invest significantly to improve our capabilities. In the last few years, we have made more than $30 billion of investment in the network. This is about in the last 3 years. And we employ a global team of security engineers and researchers, as well as a global experts on privacy and compliance. We actually operate at well-funded vulnerability rewards program to find and fix software bugs out there. And because we believe that building a safer internet is better for everyone, we continuously share our security innovations with the world through open source contributions and high impact vulnerability and other security research. Now, let's talk about the security controls that you can use to help meet your policy, regulatory, and business objectives when you bring your data and workloads to Google Cloud. So at Google Cloud, we are committed to doing our part in keeping your data secure. But the reality is that security is a shared responsibility and it requires collaboration. As you can see here, we are generally responsible for securing Google's infrastructure, and customers are responsible for securing their data. That's what we typically call the shared responsibility security model. This means that the specific responsibilities can actually vary according on what products and features you're using, right? So if you're taking advantage of infrastructure as a service products, for example, like a GCP, or you are using platform as a service, like something like App Engine, or software as a service, something like G Suite, depending on which of those kind of services you're using, the shared responsibilities change between us and our customers, but it's always a shared task. We need to work together to secure the data or secure the infrastructure in the cloud and the data of the cloud. So we help customers, we have teams to help our customers with a portion of that responsibility. We provide best practices, templates, products, and solutions. And part of what I want to talk about today is what are those tools and those controls that we can give you to help you secure your data and workloads. So as part of that commitment to help you secure your data workloads, we believe that trust is created through transparency. So you may be familiar with cloud audit logs, not just in Google Cloud, but other cloud providers, which are just operation logs that can help you answer questions like who did what, where, and when, related to the cloud artifacts in your cloud projects. So cloud audit logs can provide these logs about actions taken by members within your own organization, right? That's pretty common, pretty standard, pretty common. But we have this feature in Google Cloud called Access Transparency. And Access Transparency can provide logs of the actions taken by Google personnel. Access Transparency can help you verify that Google personnel are accessing your content only for valid business reasons, such as fixing an outage or when the Google support team attends to your request, right? You can also use it to verify and track compliance with legal or regulatory needs. And then you can take that a step further with the access approval for Google Cloud. So access approval gives you the ability to directly manage access to your content and workloads by Google personnel. That means that our own support and engineering teams cannot access your Google Cloud content unless you explicitly grant them approval. And then you can require this approval every single time. We are the first cloud provider to offer these kind of controls to cover all of our employees. This is real meaningful oversight. You should trust, but verify. And access transparency and access control help you do just that. There is also another host of services that we offer as part of the Google Cloud Platform to secure your workloads and data. And this here, what you see here is just a quick summary of some of those services and features. And we don't have time today to go into detail for each of those. But what you will see here is a set of services to, for example, protect against data exfiltration, to ensure that your VMs are shielded against threats, to be able to scan your logs for activity, to use ML to understand what kind of risk is out there and provide recommendations on how to minimize that threat, or to scan your applications for common vulnerabilities. So when you bring your workloads and data to Google Cloud, you can leverage all these security services. And some of these are actually, many of these are free and included with your Google Cloud projects to help you understand the threats, analyze your security posture, and minimize it when needed. For example, Cloud Security Command Center is one of my favorite products out there because that's one single pane of glass across all the different projects in the organization to scan and therefore prevent, detect, and respond to threats in your data and workloads from one single pane of glass in a way that is consistent. On the right, we also have a set of services specific for container security. As Greg mentioned, something that we have been doing at Google for a long, long time is deploying applications as containers. And then we externalize all that knowledge as the Kubernetes orchestration platform and now the Anthos multi-hybrid platform. And one of the main core responsibilities within that strategy is to ensure that all the containers and the container platforms are secure from the ground up. So that's why we offer things like the binary authorization to ensure that your images are trusted when you deploy them. And of course, we are able to scan for vulnerabilities and create a secure sandbox for your container workloads. Another control mechanism that I would like to talk about today is, and something that Greg mentioned earlier today, is Beyond Corp. It's one of my favorite initiatives out there. So a little bit of history. In 2011, Google came up with a new approach for access management, what we call the Beyond Corp enterprise security model. It started as an internal security Google initiative to enable every employee to work from untrusted networks without the use of a traditional VPN. So show of hands, raise your hand if you love using VPNs. I cannot see you right now, but I bet that I wouldn't see that many hands raising, right? So Beyond Corp is a way to avoiding using traditional VPNs by shifting access controls from the network perimeter, which is what the typical VPN is doing, to individual users and devices, thereby allowing employees to work more securely from any location. It's exactly what we do within Google, right? I can bring my computer and be connected on any network in the world, and I still don't have to use a VPN to access Google corporate content. This means that it's transforming our work into a truly, truly edgeless world. So let's see how this works, right? So let's say that you have some internal applications that you need to protect. So we look at your identity and behavior and security posture. We evaluate that through rules, and we enforce those at the point of entry. The way that this happens, in fact, is we look at your user identity. We look at the security posture of your device, looking at the endpoint verification. And at the edge in the Google front end, before you can even get to your workloads, we look at rules and we look at the context on which you are accessing this. So which IP is the request coming from? Where is that IP geographically located? What time of the day is it? What is the age of the session? We look at all the different contexts of the request coming to access that data. And based on the rules that you define, we have proxies that allow you to access that information or not. So rather than having the burden of the security access on the firewall and the network perimeter, And like Greg said, once you break that perimeter, you are in and everything is good to go. Every single time that you access your application, we keep checking the context of those requests and ensure that the context of it matches the rule for access. So we effectively shift the control to a security posture from the people requesting the data. So that means that the access becomes context aware. So you can define rules to access the data in your workloads based on identity and user identity and device context, and other contexts like geographical location and time of the day, for example, which means that we're shifting control from the network layer to the application layer. And this allows you to work from any location without a remote access VPN. All the data gets filtered through the front-end proxy and rules engine, which means that, again, every single request gets checked against a context, and that totally removes the need for a VPN. But then you can increase the security of that architecture by using two-step verification and security keys. So something that we have added to the Beyond Corp model to increase the security posture and access is the FIDO standard. So as part of the Beyond Corp model in Google, every day we are required to authenticate using our Titan key, our FIDO key. So let's talk a little bit about exactly how it works and why that helps you, right? Security keys were specifically designed to address the issues with second factor authentication. And all these best practices have been standardized in the FIDO Alliance, which means that there are many vendors out there who are FIDO compliant, and they offer hardware keys to increase your security posture, right? And these keys were defined with basically three goals in mind. Being safe, so they can be resistant to phishing, to be easy to use for the user and the administrator having to manage those in the organization, and for privacy, so users cannot be tracked across services, and all the key important materials remain on the keys. So, for example, one of the issues that the FIDO keys fix is phishing, right? So, because security keys are a second factor authentication, they can help you avoid phishing, right? The basic idea is that the security key can tell the server which URL you're looking at. So it is a Google login, and the security key tells the server that you are at, let's say, a fake URL, right? Something like fakegoogle.com. It can simply block the login. So it will help you avoid that. So the great thing about this approach is that the security key can be used not only as a second factor authentication, which is great, right, to increase your security posture, but actually can help you reduce the chances of phishing. We have been using our own version of the FIDO keys called Titan keys, I mentioned a minute, in Google since I want to believe 2017. And when we first rolled out the keys, I remember a year after they were rolled out, we were told that for a year, there were no phishing attacks, any of the Google employees actually using these keys. So this is a great way to help you minimize this. Today, typically, with our users, you have to pay attention to the URL bar. And in Chrome, for example, and most browsers, you have features to help you detect URLs that look suspicious and they are potential for phishing. But the reality is that that's an unfair burden to your users, right? You're telling them that they need to pay attention. And I think we believe that that's a failing of the general web trust infrastructure that we're putting a burden in the human to detect these things. So now we are enhancing the web trust infrastructure with this standard, like the FIDO standard, so we can automate this problem, and then we can take the burden off the human. I mean, if you think about it, let's say, Imagine that your car has some kind of major safety problem, like, for example, the brake fluid is leaking, right? And it shouldn't start. So it should not be you, it shouldn't be on you to have to check if the brake lines are okay every single time that you start your car, right? The car manufacturers build safety features in the car to help you detect those things. So that's exactly what the FIDO keys are doing here. And we have our own version of the FIDO keys that we call the Titan security keys to help you with that. And lately, we also enabled your Android phone to be a security key, which is a pretty convenient way to approach this. So finally, I want to talk a little bit about compliance. And our products regularly undergo independent verification of the security, privacy, and the compliance controls. We achieve certifications, attestations of compliance, and we produce other reports against global standards. You can see here an example of all the standards that we support nowadays. This means that independent auditors examine the controls in our data centers, in our infrastructure, and in operations. And then they certify these controls. Some of these certifications are among the most widely recognized in the world, among the most internationally accepted by independent security standards. And these certifications help us meet the demands of industry standards like PCI DSS, GDPR, and so on, right? And we meet some of these global standards and many other regional standards as well. But this is a great, interesting thing and a big differentiator in Google Cloud. In Google Cloud, right, because of our global network, we just have one cloud, right? We don't have a North American cloud and a European cloud and a Gulf cloud, right? We have one single cloud interconnected by a global network. What this means from a security perspective and from a compliance perspective is that most of the certifications that you are seeing here apply to the same platform everywhere in the world. When we meet the requirements for all these jurisdictions, that means that everyone in the world benefits from it, right? So for example, if you have a certain certification or compliance regulation that applies in a certain country, and we meet in Google Cloud, even if it's just what's created for needs in that country, that still applies to the entire platform, and therefore all of our customers globally benefit from those compliance certifications. And we continue to expand our list of compliance offerings globally so we can help our customers with the compliance obligations. Another great feature that we have within Google Cloud that can help you with compliance is that this feature that we call the Cloud Data Loss Prevention or Cloud DLP. Cloud DLP is a great managed services that can help you scan, discover, classify, and report data in Google Cloud. So Cloud DLP has native support for scanning and classifying sensitive data in Google Cloud databases and other storage in Google Cloud. For example, like PII data to help you manage that data and you collect and storage in Google Cloud. So if you store social security numbers or emails and credit card information or any kind of PII data that you're concerned about, you can use DLP to scan this data, to classify, and to help us, and DLP can help you manage that data. Do you need to mask it? Do you need to transform it? Do you need to remove it? DLP can help you identify the data and manage it. And the best thing about this is that you can run a DLP scan with just a few clicks. It's mostly integrated in the storage services in Google Cloud. And in most cases, you don't need any code. You can just enable DLP for users across your enterprise, even to non-coders, which can just run this DLP discovery and transformation operations without having to write any code. So we're coming toward the end of the time for my session today. And the bottom line is that When you think globally about a security program, as you know, there are many areas of responsibility, right? You need to secure your infrastructure. You need to secure your network, your data, your applications. You need to manage identity and access, and you need to secure your device endpoints. There are also ongoing processes for security operations and governance, for risk, for compliance. And at Google, we can provide capabilities and services across the entire Google Cloud offering, GCP, G Suite, and connected devices that covers the entire scope of responsibility. And we continuously keep expanding the set of capabilities to meet your needs. And then we rely on a set of security technology partners out there to help you with your security needs. That's all for today. You can see my email there. I will be more than happy to talk to you more in detail about our security approaches. We have a lot of content and white papers on our website. And please reach out if you have any further questions.